Good evening and welcome to Burlington and Beyond. I'm your host this evening, Adam Sinesi, and we have a jam-packed hour coming your way, and we're just going to jump right into it tonight. We have a very special guest to lead off the hour. It is State Treasurer candidate Mike Heffernan. So, Mike, thank you for joining us.
Adam,
welcome.
Paul, Pat, John, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
We're happy to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a local guy.
So I'm a local guy, Central Mass guy. I grew up in Southborough, Massachusetts. My father is actually from Brighton, my mother from Cambridge, and ironically I come from a Democrat union family.
No kidding.
But I think these days that my grandparents would not recognize the Democrats on Beacon Hill.
Good for you. So out of curiosity, Mike, what made you decide to run for treasurer?
So, as I said, you know, my grandfather was a Boston policeman. My other grandfather actually ran part of the Parks Department in Cambridge, and my father was a public school teacher. So they've all been giving back to the community. And I actually worked my way through college with the help of my parents and some scholarships. And so I feel I owe it to my community, to my family, to give back. So this is my way. I don't think of this as being a politician. I think of this as elected public service. You know, I've been very fortunate with 30 years in finance. I helped some friends start some small companies, one right here in Massachusetts. And I think that the problems in Massachusetts and in our country are so large that it really takes the public sector and the private sector coming together. And I think Charlie Baker and myself, Karen Polito, and a number of our other candidates represent the best of that private sector to come together and solve some of the big problems we have here in Massachusetts.
So tell us a little bit about your work experience. You have a very impressive resume from what I've read online.
Don't read everything on paper. Right. Believe everything on paper. No, I spent nearly 30 years in finance and capital markets. So much like the treasurer issues debt for the state and the agencies, I spent most of my career working with large publicly traded companies, helping them raise capital to grow their business and hire and create jobs. And I'd spent my other role in capital markets in finance was advising professional investors. A lot of them were pension fund investors. So the pension fund and debt and asset management, very large chunk of the role of the treasurer. So it fits very well with my background. So for me, looking to do public service, to give back, the role of the treasurer, especially in Massachusetts, really fit the skill set that I bring. Because in Massachusetts, we have some of the highest debt levels. We have probably more debt per person than any state in the union. And our pension system was actually ranked a failing grade, the only state with a failing grade, by the Urban Institute about a month ago. It failed on 130 metrics.
Wow.
So we have our job cut out for us.
You've hit upon exactly what I wanted to hear, and that is, I'm sure that you've done a lot of research with regard to what has been going on with the current treasurer and the department that he runs. And I'm sure there are things that you feel that you would like to touch upon, to change perhaps, or to look into some of those things.
So I break it down, Pat, in two ways. We call it hard power and soft power. And that soft power is we don't have the discussion in a single party system, which we have now. We don't talk about the high levels of debt before we issue more. We don't talk about the pension system when we decide where to allocate, our income tax revenues. And so by putting Republicans back in the executive branch, as we had in the 90s, we had 4 Republican governors in a row before Deval Patrick, we get a lot more done. And it's an oversimplification, but it's when your kids were young and they would come downstairs and they'd get ready for bed and you'd say, "Did you brush your teeth?" And they're like, "No." They run right back upstairs and brush their teeth. And you would say to the legislature, "Did you really look hard at the numbers? Well, maybe we should look at them again." Yeah. So I think having those discussions, putting some light, getting more transparency and accountability on Beacon Hill is as simple as reinstating the two-party system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a question for me that's been bothering me for quite a while, and this is at the community level and how the state and the state treasury department might be able to help, since they do handle a lot of the pension issues, and a lot of the communities are tied into some of the state retirement plans and stuff. But almost every community is dealing with a fairly sizable unfunded mandate, albeit health care and the pension system. And I'm sure that that has been swept under the rug for like forever. The state addresses it in tidbits, and towns slowly are throwing minuscule amounts of money in to address it. Right. How can the Treasury position that you're running for help to address that issue?
I think it comes again in that soft power where you have to, it's mathematical shortcut, but every dollar that you put towards those unfunded mandates is worth $3. So it's the best investment you can make. And I'll give you an example here on the state level. For the past 3 years, we have exceeded our original expectations on income tax revenues because of the recovering national economy. And the legislature will meet 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year and pass a continuing resolution and spend that money. But they don't invest it in the pension fund issue. We're $28 billion underfunded, I think, the last time I looked.
The number's huge.
It's a huge number. And it's not a sexy issue, so they find other sound bites. So I think one of the issues is that when you have a single party system, they find sound bites. Right, we'll do a higher minimum wage. We will, make all these other decisions that are actually fairly expensive. So instead of doing a boring funding your pension liability, funding your OPEB, right, they're finding something else that looks better in the newspaper. And you need to have a two-party system where we're making those private sector style disciplined decisions on where that excess cash goes. We're considered the third wealthiest state in the nation. We're 45th in job creation according to Moody's. Mm-hmm. We've created 11 or 15,000 jobs in 15 years. In the 90s, when we cut regulation by a third, when we lowered taxes, when we had a Republican treasurer and a Republican governor, we created 500,000 jobs in 10 years.
Wow.
Well, that's why we need that special tax on high-tech firms.
Well, it just shows an insensitivity or a lack of understanding of what actually drives true long-term job creation in Massachusetts. So we're having an economic boom in eastern Massachusetts, in and around Boston and Cambridge. It's fantastic, the innovation economy. But regulatory decisions and legislative decisions we've made gives us the second highest electricity prices in the nation. It gives us the second highest unemployment tax in the nation. Right? And it puts us 47th in the ease of creating businesses. So you'll have an innovation economy, which is driving the 128 area, but we're not able to scale businesses here in Massachusetts. So we still have upwards of 12 communities in Massachusetts with double-digit unemployment. And that's just not, the Democrats talk about fairness and justice. That's not fair. And I think the Republicans can really help solve that problem and alleviate the pressure on the most, on the most deserving in our state, the most at risk in our state.
I see it as common sense. I mean, when you have a two-party system, it's one party looking, as you've indicated with regard to the Treasury, it's one party looking out for in so many different areas. It just makes sense. Not only at the state level, but even at the federal level, it's the same problem.
I think I shouldn't be hard on career politicians. I was elected the first time to an elected position in 1975 in high school, and I took 30 years off to get some experience in the private sector. But having people who are making career decisions versus decisions for their constituents and long-term decisions for the Commonwealth have led us down a path to where we are. We have unbelievably high debt levels we don't talk about. Now, we can afford to be there, but we can't afford not to address them. We don't need sacrifice, we need discipline. We go another 8 years in a one-party system, we're going to be looking at sacrifice.
Yeah, and one of the big problems that the system is dealing with too is the big dig was just incredibly expensive. It's really stopped road development for any other projects because that debt burden is just so dramatic. And those two issues, really, unfunded mandates, getting the pension system under control,
right,
and trying to deal with some of those other road issues are probably the two big overhangs that the state kind of put blinders on and nobody's aware of.
Yeah, and here's another issue which I was disturbed by. Well, one is that our property taxes have been going up pretty dramatically. Yes. In my hometown, our taxes are up 70% in 10 years.
Wow.
70%.
So are us, just about.
Yeah, they are. In the Metro Boston area, taxes are up, and that's unsustainable. When your tax burden, your overall tax burden, is growing faster than income, that's unsustainable. And so we need to get the Commonwealth on a steady state financially, and we're just not there yet. And in local aid since 2009, local aid's been cut. Unrestricted local aid's been cut 40%. So the lottery, at about $950 million in net profits, is your only source of local unrestricted aid now.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear it every time town meeting every year when we do our budget. We see the local aid number get knocked down.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years,
You
it's dropped
really,
dramatically.
you really have to look at state and local government as a partnership, because that's how the burden is decided on the individual taxpayers, the individual families in Massachusetts. It's a combination of their local and state taxes. So the state goes one way and they're doing burden shifting. So you're actually paying more in taxes and getting less.
Which isn't really the concept that we pay our taxes for.
No, it's you're not getting a good return on your tax dollar.
How are you getting the word out?
We are.
It's complicated.
It's
Not complicated, but I think the average citizen does not realize what is involved.
At this point, in a July coming up to a November election, less than 10% of the electorate is actually paying attention. So now we're out meeting folks, we're building our team, we're fundraising, which is as they say, the mother's milk of any campaign, and we're getting ready so that after the Democrats pick one of their three in the primary, we'll be ready to go on a 24/7 campaign all the way through November 4th. So while the Democrats are all kind of having a little bit of infighting and trying to win a primary, we're actually building a campaign, building a program, and building on our base so that we can be as strong as possible in that sprint through September and October and the first 4 days of November.
Slightly complicated understanding that. I mean, the inside parts of this whole program of what should be done, as you've explained very well. I think the average citizen, but to me, even to simplify it, the thing that's most important to me, once again, is to have balance. It's so important to have balance. We've had Democrats just run away with everything, and
Well, we were talking about, Adam and I were talking before we went live, Massachusetts only has 34% registered Democrats. So there are, according to Wikipedia, 25 other states that have a higher percentage of registered Democrats. So the independents really make the decisions, especially when they come to the polls in the mid-year elections, when you're not being skewed by a presidential poll. And that's why the voters in Massachusetts, we should take great pride in this. They voted to keep the income tax at 5%. It's rolling back down to 5% as income taxes recover. We voted for Prop 2.5 to control local spending. We've voted 5 times not to have progressive taxes, but each of my opponents is for all of those things. They're for higher taxes, they're for progressive taxes. And I think giving a blank check to the legislature, as we've learned, it's never a good idea, especially in a one-party system.
Yeah, and they keep on trying to push taxes through. They raise the sales tax, trying to stick us with a gasoline tax, which is another issue we're discussing.
Attempted the
it's like,
technology tax.
Well,
as well that, if we were just a little bit more prudent with the taxpayers' money and not thinking it's a never-ending wall of funds.
Well, here's another Wikipedia fact. Take it for what it's worth. But we would be standalone like the 55th largest country in the world on our new budget of $36 billion. And that's without having to pay for national defense. We have plenty of money, right? The good thing is we're relatively high tax. We have very high fees. There's a lot of cash coming in. It's what you do with that fire hose of cash. And here's another line. So if you're a fan of Seinfeld,
yeah, of course.
and Seinfeld has his bizarro world where everything's backwards.
Yes.
I think the way the state's been run, and there's enough been said about the lack of executive skills in this administration, that a Republican administration would be the reverse. The Republican administration would bring more money, more dollars, more services, more support to the needy in this state than the current administration.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Right. Counterintuitive, but true.
It is true. I mean, I think Reagan showed that back 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, we have 4,700 homeless families in Massachusetts.
really,
And with the face rate, right, the nominal rate of unemployment coming down, we've actually have more families moving into temporary motels and hotels. It's up from 1,800 to 2,000. We need to help these people. We really,
I was especially thrilled this morning when I picked up the newspaper and found out that they're spending close to $50 million on renovations at the State House. And I'm just wondering how much of that is really needed. How much of that is, they talked about 20 million for the House and 20 million for the Senate and $9 million for the governor.
Well, they already spent the $9 million on the governor. I think that's why they decided they didn't want to have him have the only nice office, especially if it's most likely going to be a Republican. So I think they're trying to, that two-party system. I think we're catching it in the spending. If we're going to have a Republican in the governor's corner office, we better have nice chambers for the Democrat legislature.
And to expand on what you said, though, Mike, I know you just issued an announcement today about your opinion on the expansion of the convention
Well,
center.
as I said, we are, if not we are one of the most levered states in the nation on a per-person basis. And the governor signed today a bill for $1 billion, which could be as high as $1.1 billion, to expand the convention center.
The one in South Boston?
The one in South Boston.
That's always empty?
So they did a lot of work, came up with some very aggressive assumptions, but when you pull the covers back on this bill, it's done. It has exemptions built in for both how they procure the contracts and exemptions on their financial status, and those exemptions from the public, from the public disclosure laws. Those are the very laws that helped us uncover the probation scandal. So, as a treasurer, I would not issue that debt. The bill says the treasurer may issue the debt. And so as a constitutional officer and protecting the taxpayer and protecting the creditworthiness of the state, I can't set a new low in transparency on some agency bonds that are actually built on some questionable assumptions. So no.
Good
No,
thinking.
we talked about soft and hard power. That's your hard power.
Yeah. No, I perfectly understand. And that's not where the money should be going. I mean, this is not, I've been there for conventions. I'm in high tech myself, and so I've done some shows down there, and I've never seen the place all that crowded over the years, and quite honestly, the city isn't set up for big convention environments unless a lot of things change.
Yeah, no, I am sure that there's an argument for what the convention center has done for driving traffic into Greater Boston, and
Sure.
they have no hesitation in making that argument. But I'm not sure that the Treasury issuing another $1 billion in debt that's ultimately backstopped by the taxpayer, if it's based on cyclical revenues from the hotel tax. If the economy rolls over, you've got a cyclical business, the convention business, funded by a cyclical tax base, hotel room rates. Right. And so why would you lever up a cyclical business on a cyclical revenue stream? It doesn't make great business sense.
Well, the other business sense is where they're going to get the money if they want to run the Olympics out of Boston in 10 years. No city has made money on that deal in 20 years, and the taxpayers will be
How did Boston do with the? Oh, I'm sorry.
Really pay a lot of pain for that.
Yeah.
How did we do with the Democrat National Convention a couple of years ago, where they pretty much had to tell people, don't bother commuting into Boston this week. The traffic's just going to be too much.
Yeah.
Remember the pizza place across the road was angry because they asked him to shut down, and he actually lost money. He said he did less business across the road from where the TD North Garden is than he would have done if there was no convention at all.
Yeah, but the Olympics requires $1 billion stadium, essentially.
Oh, I mean,
And
it's
infrastructure.
Right.
And I think when it's wonderful to have. It's certainly a brilliant event, but
Point of
It is.
prestige.
You have to really think about how you
you
would
gonna
build
pay
that
for it?
infrastructure. How you going to pay for it, and what would that infrastructure do? How would you use it
Long
when you were
term.
done? Right.
What's the advantage of it?
Where are you going to have a soccer team here? Are you going to, what are you going to do with those giant facilities once they're built? I mean, there's probably I don't know enough about the Olympics. It would be really It would be really cool to have the
that
Olympics
part's
there,
true.
right? If we were able to figure out what it's going to do for the infrastructure and the economy in Massachusetts.
But a lot of thought needs to go into that.
A lot of thought.
And I'm not sure that people on the outside really grasp the potential financial downside to it.
Yeah, and now, I'm really concerned when you look at the numbers of employment in Massachusetts, the underemployment is when you look at all adults that want to work full-time, almost 1 in 7 adults in Massachusetts that wants to work full-time can't. And where we are now in Burlington and you go into Boston, unemployment's 2.5%, 3%. But remember, we're the most educated state in the union. Roughly 40% of the adults over 25 have a college education or more. So we're a very highly educated state. But we still have those 12 communities with double-digit inflation, 50 communities that have 8% and higher. And so we've got to figure a way to scale businesses here in Massachusetts. And that's going to start by having a true two-party system with Republicans in the executive branch that understand business, because businesses will come here when they have confidence in the government, confidence in the regulatory scheme, and confidence in the tax scheme.
How much of the people that are being educated locally that come from overseas or even other parts of America, how many of those actually stay? What percentage?
You know,
are there figures
Pat,
on that?
there is, and I was lucky enough to sit in on a day-long symposium at the Boston Fed on that, and the numbers are not good because it's very expensive to
so.
stay here.
Yeah.
Foreign nationals who come here, it's very hard for them to get the appropriate visas to stay, even though they're going to create jobs, create businesses, and they've got great intellectual horsepower. And so it's a local problem for us that really has roots in Washington.
Sure.
And it's hard because if we can get those people to stay,
Yeah.
right? If we can get them to create businesses around the colleges they went to, whether it's MIT or Harvard or Emerson, right, or Boston, Boston College, BU.
Oh yeah, we got
right?
tremendous schools
UMass,
here. We get the best schools in
UMass,
the country in the
it's
Northeast.
fantastic.
No question about that.
It's unbelievable. We were driving through UMass out in Amherst on a swing through Western Mass last week, and you have to love the comparative advantages we have in the United States with those land-grant colleges we have, those land-grant universities.
Beautiful.
Great, but
Yep.
it's much more important than Final Four basketball and football. It's
Well, now watch it
educating.
now. My daughter's going to Syracuse.
So I have to tell you, I worked my way through Georgetown. So the Carrier Dome has a lot of emotion for me.
Oh well.
Not all of it good.
I actually played basketball in college myself.
Wow, where did you play?
Colby,
Wow, what year did you graduate?
77.
Well, Mike, I had promised you that we'd get you back on the
Yeah.
campaign trail. Is
great.
there anything that you want to leave our viewers with before you?
Well, I have to tell you, so our website is MikeHeffernan2014.com. Please go. We've got videos. Well, and follow us on Facebook. It's Mike Heffernan 2014 on Facebook. I have a daughter who turned 16 yesterday who lives and dies by our Facebook likes, and we're on Twitter. We're on Twitter as well. So follow us. If if you like what you heard tonight, we'd love to have you either volunteer for the campaign. As we said earlier, donations to the campaign are the mother's milk of all politics. So anything you can do, and it was really great to be on. Great to see you guys. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Great
for
to
coming
hear
into
you.
Burlington.
Really,
Thank you.
I'm
We
really,
appreciate coming.
really pleased that you came in. I enjoyed hearing you and your program. I
Great.
really
Thank you, Pat.
look forward to.
Thanks a lot, Mike. It's a real
John,
pleasure.
Yeah.
Adam,
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Great.
Don't be a stranger about coming back. if you're
Absolutely.
interested.
Absolutely.
The door's always
Thank you.
open. Thank you.
Yep.
So we've got a couple of other topics to discuss tonight. In particular, we just had, we're coming off of the probation department scandal, which there were a couple of convictions. Went down this
Three.
week in federal court. Yeah.
Three convictions. Well, two serious, and the third one, I guess, is not quite.
And one implication.
One implication, but not even an indictment the Speaker DeLeo's way.
Yeah.
Is that coming through the pipeline, or has he dodged the bullet, do you think?
Well, they've pretty much closed the case at this stage. So, although there was a lot of outside concerns about his potential involvement, there was never, I guess, enough direct evidence to completely, implicate him. Although he did get brought up by the Attorney General in conversation during the trial. So, I don't know. You'd have to be inside their heads to understand, how closely he was to getting into that situation. But it's reflective of just briefly what Mike was talking about before he left, in terms of this probably never would have happened if we have a two-party system
Exactly.
that works effectively, as opposed to one party that is so in bed with all the different groups that run our government, and there's no checks and balances, and the only way you get honest checks and balances was you have somebody else looking over your shoulder. And that was, again, this is, how many scandals do we have to deal with, in our legislative, group before, people wake up to realize that it would make sense to have a little bit more competition at that level.
I was so happy to see the light shone upon on Mr. DeLeo and the leaders of both the Senate and the House. I think that it goes a long way, or it will go a long way, to helping people to realize exactly what you've talked about, and that is the desperate need for a two-party system at the state level at the federal level, but especially at our state level. And I think this is going to help. I can't imagine how people can't pay attention to it. It was all over the papers for what, the last 3 weeks?
Oh yeah, there's
It's
a
a
great
big issue.
great article in the Globe, and I'll read just a brief part of it. U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz suspects you had, this is about Bob DeLeo, your hand on that cookie jar too, but couldn't find the fingerprints to prove it. So she did the next best thing, which was to tarnish you with a suspicion by casting you in the incriminating role of an unindicted co-conspirator. How do you fight that? Hey, maybe you're guilty of sin. Maybe she just did a lousy job of proving it, which, is a pretty severe indictment of, what was going on in that whole environment, and, the amount of patronage that goes on in Capitol Hill, again, without an effective group, that's, both groups need to look over each other's shoulders to make sure that, they're adhering to the dictates that we expect as taxpayers and as citizens.
I'd like to go one step further and say, let's look at the leaders of the House, the last, three that
three.
have been
Indicted.
yeah.
And convicted.
And
All
convicted.
and convicted.
And convicted.
Yeah, all Democrats, and I think it's long overdue. I have always thought that if you don't have one looking after the other or looking to see what the other party is doing, you're bound to have trouble. And patronage, I think, is the obvious result of that kind of system. So I'm very happy with the results. And I hope that a lot of people. Well, it was in the front page for a long time, so I can't imagine that people are not aware of it. And for those people out there who are not or have not, if you're watching tonight, then I urge you to do some homework and find out what it's all about, because that's the crux of it. One-party system does not work, cannot work. Anyway, it's history for the moment. We've got.
We'll see what else bubbles to the surface.
yeah.
There always seems to be something bubbling. But I gotta say, I'm gonna throw a bouquet President Obama's way, and I gotta say the U.S. Attorney, an appointee by President Barack Obama, U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz. I think she's done a pretty darn good job in her role as U.S. Attorney. I mean, she was involved with the whole, again, Diane Wilkerson. Stuffing the money in her bra and, taking bribes.
So she's been the U.S. Attorney here for quite a while then.
She's been the U.S. Attorney, I think, since around 2009. So, and she prosecuted Whitey Bulger. Thought that was a pretty effective.
Yep.
She's going to prosecute Aaron Hernandez and Joe Karsanayev.
She might be a Republican.
Yeah, I know. She was referred, believe it or not, she was referred to to Obama by Ted Kennedy.
Oh.
But I gotta say, this woman has done quite a heck of a job.
I have to agree. She's been straightforward. Yes.
There are still some good public servants out there, and I would say Carmen Ortiz is one of them. And I would venture to say Carmen Ortiz is even most likely a Democrat based on the referrals that she's received. But she's from that office. She's definitely restored some confidence in my faith
I have to agree.
in the powers that be. Mm-hmm. Another one that she also prosecuted Chuck Turner, who was the city councilor in Boston.
Oh, yes.
That was also convicted of taking bribes. So, I mean, she's got quite the hit parade for Carmen Ortiz. I'd be interested to hear what she has up her sleeve next. And
when is she, she has been now since, 2009, you said? And
so I believe
her office is what, a 3-year stint?
Well, the U.S. Attorney, it's not an elected position. It's they serve at the pleasure of whoever might be the president at the time, and they're nominated. And usually, when the when the presidential terms expire or the baton is passed,
they all get.
Yeah.
Usually, the walking papers because the next administration wants their own focus on the areas that they want to pursue.
Yeah, but I'm very happy with how my tax dollars have been spent in her office. I got to say that. Moving along and hitting a little bit closer to home, some major controversy going on at everyone's favorite grocery store here in Burlington, Market Basket. I'll tell you, my groceries costed $40 more than they usually do this weekend when I went to go do my grocery shopping. I'll tell you that much. What do you guys think?
I just can't get around the fact that you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar business, and these two guys can't find a way to be happy with one another and be able to let the chain continue. I read in the Globe this morning that there's, if this continues, if they don't come to a resolution, they're losing millions of dollars every day. And if they don't resolve this issue soon, that there's a chance that they could jeopardize the actual value of the chain. Seriously,
I think they already have.
Yeah, probably have. Well, maybe. I don't know. I think that
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, I think that if they come back and they, make some special offers, whoever the owner is or whoever is going to be in charge, I think that they probably will get most of their customers back. It may take a little while, but I think that they will survive. However, if it goes on for another week, I would say, I think they're in serious trouble. The chain is in trouble. So you have to ask the question, not Arthur T, but the other one, his cousin, Arthur S.
Arthur S.
Yeah, is he gambling with losing? He has the 50.5% ownership, but is he gambling with the fact that he may lose all of that if he continues and they don't come to a solution? I visited the store the other day, and I bought a couple of items, and I asked the lady, I said, this is pretty disparaging. I said, do you think that there's going to be any resolution? She said, if you think it's bad on that side of the counter, you don't know how bad it is on this side of the counter.
Wow.
The assumption, of course, being that the unknown plus the fact that they're not being paid. They're not getting, some of them are not getting salary. I'm not sure of how they're working it out with who gets paid and who doesn't, or if anyone is getting paid, but she implied that,
Well, if she's working, she has to get paid.
Yeah.
she's working, she has to get paid.
But
yeah.
this family battle has been going on for some time now. There are two sides.
Yeah.
One side wants to keep the chain going as is and is quite happy with the chain continue to grow in value, and the other side essentially wants to extract their billions out of the company and move off into something else. It's a simple matter of greed, and greed sometimes can get you in a lot of trouble. And I think the end resolution will be one of two: that a consortium will come in and buy the entire company, or buy Arthur S.'s share of the company and have control, because I'm not sure Arthur T. would give that up, or Arthur T. with his own group of investors will buy out his cousin, and the chain will go back to operating the way it has. I mean, those are the two, those will be the end games, and clearly the board has to make a decision in a short period of time, because there's a lot of damage being done to the brand, no question about that. But they were always the most effective, certainly the most cost-effective shopping environment of any of the grocery stores in the Northeast. So we can only hope that they resolve it in short order. But I think there's a lot of emotion in this too between the two sides. Which
Absolutely,
is not,
I think it goes beyond money.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
going to be, which is probably why this is becoming a little bit problematic.
Given the fact that they had 10,000 people, I think it was 2 days ago, they
Yes,
had 10,000
Friday.
people Friday in Tewksbury. I would think that Arthur S. would look into his heart and say, well, there's no sense in just destroying this. I mean, can he be that bitter?
Yes.
No sense in destroying, and well, look at what he's going to do to himself. I mean, his percentage is gone if the chain is gone.
Well, let's not forget Arthur T. Arthur T's still got skin in the game too, and as
They got 49.5%
right. So
of the
as
company.
this
They're not
right
playing a
as
big
the
deal.
value of their company erodes, I mean,
Everybody will get hurt.
Everybody gets
I
hurt.
tend to think if someone were to make them an offer to buy their company tomorrow, buy the chain of grocery stores, that offer would be for a lot less than it was say, a month ago.
Yes.
So
I agree.
mean, I think the value of their business has already been hurt, and I'm almost floored at how poorly Arthur S. and the management team at Market Basket has done actually combating the perception. And this has been Harvard Business School will do case studies.
Oh yeah, well I don't think anybody has ever seen a scenario where the CEO is the one that's let go and the employees raise up, and want to shut the company down until they get them back.
That's amazing.
That is just
that
kind of a
is- that
reverse
is,
of
yeah.
anything I've ever seen happen in the past.
Yeah. There might be
which is-
something in that for other
And
companies to
quite
learn.
honest, and the public relations battle that Arthur T has raised has been brilliant.
Yes.
I agree.
I mean, certainly
Yeah.
the support of the employees has been a big driver of that, but I mean, it's just
I
it's
believe.
hard to believe.
You've probably seen these if you've driven
Oh,
by
they're
the
everywhere.
store.
You know, and it wasn't such an
Everywhere.
emotional battle. I think the smart money would say Arthur T could put a team together and buy out the other side. And
I'm
let
rooting
him-
for Arthur T.
And let it move forward.
I am
and
too.
everybody,
It's
everybody
not
comes.
personal. It comes down to my
No,
wallet. My wallet
no,
likes Arthur T.
Yeah,
I
not
like
only
that
my
business
not only
model.
my wallet, but I have a lot of respect for the people.
I agree.
Who actually went out. I mean, like you said, it has never never happened before. I've never seen another corporation that has done this with
Viewers at home,
with the people.
how many people would stand on the side of the road and protest the firing of their boss? I think there's probably a couple viewers at home that would root on the firing of their boss, but that's a whole other story. So I
It
mean,
is
right,
a
this is
special
amazing.
story. It really, really is. I can't help but wonder how corporate America is looking at that. I'm sure it's it must be across the country by now.
Oh, it
A lot of
absolutely
people.
is.
Yeah.
I heard that some of the bad blood. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of bad blood that dates back all the way from when Arthur T's father owned the company.
Yeah.
But I heard that a lot of
Telemachus, I
the
love
recent
that.
spat had a lot to do with. Did you know that in 2008, when the market tanked, instead of paying out dividends to the stockholders of Market Basket, so instead of paying out dividends to the family, Arthur T, made sure that the pensions of the employees
Yeah,
were made
I-
solvent.
I heard that.
Which
yeah.
I mean, I think speaks volume of his
Yeah,
integrity.
his
and
integrity, yes.
I'm not saying every company should be beholden to doing that, but I think that's a socially responsible way to act.
Yeah.
That really is the vanguard of what you would hope your employer, how you would hope that your employer treated his business.
Absolutely.
And interestingly enough,
But that's the exception to the rule, I think.
it is the exception to the rule, but don't forget that interestingly enough, those employees did contribute during a time when the company, in lieu of the downturn of the economy, this company continued to expand. I mean, they're making now inroads into southern Maine. It's still a growing company that, with the help of the employees and the management team that had been in place prior,
71 stores. No
Yeah,
joke.
and they just
still growing their revenue and improving
Yeah.
their business.
Yeah.
and they still really have barely touched the South Shore.
True.
I think they have one location in Cape Cod, very little in the South Shore. So there's still, for them, there's a lot of potential to expand even further.
I don't know which cities up in Maine, but I did ask, and they said that southern Maine, there are a few of them. And I'm sure that they have intention. Anyway, the potential is there. The whatever they're doing or the way they're doing it is great. I have been a buyer for my wife and I have gone to Billericay store for the past 45 years, and I really feel it. I just can't quite accept it. I will go to. I have gone to other stores especially for produce now because they don't have anything in some of the meats and whatnot. But it's not the same. I really got to know the people in the store where I shopped, and I felt comfortable with them. I really felt good. And I am rooting for Arthur T, as you are.
am too.
I think most people are.
Yeah.
Most people are.
I'll tell you that I went to Shaw's this weekend. It's down in the center of town, and I've never seen that
Jammed.
parking lot so busy.
It was actually full one day when I was there. Yes.
I mean, there were lines, and it was a complete 180.
Just goes to show you if you have good prices, how you can draw people in.
Yeah.
So many
Absolutely.
people talk about pricing is not a critical parameter when people
Yeah.
look at things.
Yeah.
And, and I think as homeowners and our own dollars, we watch every nickel and dime. If
Yeah.
we could only get our government to do that, we'd
Yeah.
all be in a much better place.
I mean, Market Basket has run their business by undercutting the competition by offering the best price.
Yeah.
They're willing to make a nickel while their competition wants to make a dime, and they'd rather sell 300 units than sell.
They end up making the same amount of money or more.
more,
Yeah.
and it's worked
Well, you
for
see
them.
it. They ran this recently. They had this 4% program. Every item
All
is
year,
4%
yeah, they're running it all year.
4%
They're running
program.
it until
Yeah.
December.
And they show you on the tag on the on your cash register receipt. They'll show you exactly how much money you're saving. And as a matter of fact, I didn't catch it at first, but every time when you check out, the person at the counter is told to
Circle the
yeah,
savings,
have you seen-
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
with a yellow pen they circle how much money you've saved. So if you look at the slip and it's a good feeling. So
I agree.
anyway,
I love saving money.
Arthur T., if you're watching,
We believe.
we believe, yeah.
Got a group of believers up here.
Good luck.
We believe. Thank you. We're pulling for you, Arthur T. So, another thing that I thought would be fun to talk about, I just read this fantastic book. I don't know if I believe every word of it, but it was by this gentleman named Ed Klein, and it's called Blood Feud. Have you heard at all about this book?
I've heard of it. Is that Hillary Clinton's book?
It's well, no,
It's about her.
It's about the Clintons and the Obamas.
Oh, yeah.
And how much
I haven't read it.
really how much personal animosity actually exists between the Clintons and the Obamas. It sounds as if coming out of 2008 and that contested primary between Hillary and Barack Obama, it sounds as if Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton somewhat tolerate each other. However, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton are like oil and water. And it alludes to the fact that Obama might actively be trying to undercut the Clintons in the long run, running up to Hillary's potential involvement in the upcoming 2016 elections.
How do you explain Bill Clinton's words at the convention in support of our dear president?
The book actually gets into that. And what it implies is that Bill Clinton felt that if he had made an implicit deal with Barack Obama,
Okay.
that Barack Obama would hopefully, if Bill Clinton went on, Bill Clinton, this book puts forward the opinion that Bill Clinton does not think highly of Barack Obama as a president. Bill Clinton thinks he himself was a much better president than Obama is. He thinks he's an amateur.
I would agree with that.
I think I would
That's
agree with that
absolutely right.
also. I think Bill Clinton, I'm not a Democrat, but I think Bill Clinton was a much better president.
Well, he was
than
able to
Barack
go
Obama.
across the aisle and get things done.
He was able to get things
Well, you've
done.
got a president today that can't cross the aisle on anything and demonizes the other side instead of working with it. So everybody sits there and says, well, the Republicans can't get anything done. And the reality is they're never really given an opportunity. They've thrown a ton of bills, passed a ton of bills. They get into the Senate and
Harry Reid shoots them down.
It's shot down because the inability to compromise.
Obama does a lot of name calling too. I feel like. I mean, he's always. I mean, he's referred to the Tea Party as tea baggers, and I mean,
He gets personal.
He gets really personal.
He gets
and how do
personal
you
about
expect
he gets personal with news reporters that he doesn't like. He gets personal with his opposition that he doesn't like. Which in that role that he has, the key is to rise above everything and try to get all parties to come together. I mean, that's one of the bigger responsibilities. And I haven't seen any of that in 6 years.
I think
When
he
they
wasn't
passed
ready for it.
when they passed Obamacare, it's the worst piece of legislation that was going to be such a dramatic change in how we do things in the United States, and they couldn't get one opposition vote. One. You don't pass legislation, and certainly major legislation, without crossing the aisle and trying to work out the differences. And to me, that's just an epidemic of what a tragedy that whole bill is. And it's 3,000 pages that nobody had read, and now you've got 500,000 or 600,000 pages of rules and regulations coming out of HHS. Nobody still knows what's in it. It's going to be in the courts.
I don't think anyone's ever read it.
It's going to be in the courts forever, and it was and the amount of pain it's put the American people through is just a real shame.
Well, the manner in which the legislation was even managed, I didn't think that there was much leadership coming out of the president's
No,
office.
they were cutting deals with the Democrats to get it passed.
Well, it was all. I felt like it was really like Pelosi and Reid were the ones that
shoved
were.
it down everybody's throats. Didn't they cut a deal with one of the senators up in the Dakotas or something about some Social Security or
Oh yes.
or some Medicaid, support, $500 million for his state to get it through at the Senate side, and I mean that kind of
Louisiana Purchase also.
hand-wringing going on to pass a legislation that's just going to be so invasive in our daily lives. The IRS is going to be looking into your back door to determine whether whether you have health insurance, and if you don't, what the penalties are going to be,
Right.
or according to the Supreme Court, what the tax is going to be. I mean, it's Social Security certainly never got passed that way. Medicare and Medicaid certainly never got passed that way. Both were agreed to by both sides of the aisle, and again, there was not a single vote out of the Senate or out of the House from the opposition that thought this was a good bill, and it's turning out to be,
Oh, look at when
A sham. A
when
sham.
they passed it, almost in the dark of night, alone, thanks to Harry Reid. I was wondering about, we had Mrs. Clinton locally not too long ago.
She was in Boston this week.
Yeah, and at a Costco, I think it was, one of the Costco stores.
What? She
Yeah,
was signing
yeah,
a
it was
book too.
signing a book, yeah. I'm just wondering about Obama, if he's supporting her, or is he intending to support her? I haven't seen anything with regard to, or any signs of him saying anything with regard to supporting her publicly yet. Do you think that he will?
Well, this book was pretty interesting, and I tend to think no. And I'm not just basing that solely on the book. Obama has a lot. It's really an odd dynamic because I think it's at this point. The funny thing is we're not even through 2014, and I feel like the 2016 election is already heating up. But I think Joe Biden has really put out a lot of signals that he might be thinking of running. Where he's the vice president, which he's delusional for one. I mean, that's just comedy.
He's the vice president.
I hope he does, just for sheer comedy's sake. But he's put out a lot of feelers, and well, not just that, but I mean, so Biden is obviously going to be painted into an awkward position of running on the legacy of the last 8 years of Obama, which I mean, is that really a legacy you want to run on? Conversely, I think Hillary's in kind of an odd position too, because if she runs on it, does she want to run on the Clinton legacy? I think that would be a smart move on her part. But she was involved in the Obama administration.
She can't get away with that. She has to look at what she tried to accomplish with, or what she did, or at least according to her, what she accomplished with the as Secretary of State. Yeah.
She accomplished nothing.
What did she? She holds the record yet, I think, for the number of miles traveled. I don't know if there's anything else beyond that she.
Maybe miles traveled. In the book, it did say that Condoleezza Rice actually had visited more countries.
Oh, really?
But I don't know. Maybe Condoleezza Rice went back and forth to Canada a bunch of times. That being said, Hillary definitely moved around, and she carried herself like a stateswoman.
I can't think of anything significant that she actually. The only thing I always, whenever I think of her, I think of Benghazi, and those words that she used were terrible. What difference does it make now? Whatever the.
Well, the book gets into that, actually. The book gets into that, and it says that a lot of the response to Benghazi, when Susan Rice went on, it's now infamous how who's now the UN Secretary, went on Meet the Press and all of the Sunday morning shows, and she said, "Oh, this was a spontaneous demonstration," and clearly, and she said, "Oh, it was brought on by an internet video." I mean, stuff that has proven to have been lies. But originally, Barack Obama wanted Hillary Clinton to do that. And Hillary Clinton, at Bill Clinton's urging, said, don't do it. However, Bill Clinton takes it where the falling out. So Bill Clinton went all in campaigning for Obama in 2012. And, he really, he was probably one of the more memorable speeches at the Democrat National Convention, or even any of the national conventions.
I thought it was powerful.
Oh, he's a very good speaker.
But he felt like over Benghazi, and even after the election, he felt like the Obamas have really kind of given them the
cold shoulder.
Cold shoulder, and he felt that Hillary had deserved a warmer reception from them, and now you're hearing rumblings that a lot of what I'm reading online is there's rumors that Elizabeth Warren might be and.
She keeps saying no.
She keeps saying no.
But
the bottom line is that the left wing of that party is pushing for someone more progressive than Hillary. Hillary, I still believe in her heart of hearts. She's to the left of where we stand.
But she's pragmatic.
She's pragmatic. And there is an anti-business wing to that party. There's a wing to that party that I believe is quasi-socialistic.
I think it's even more.
I'm trying to measure my tone, and I don't think all Democrats are like that.
They're not.
They're not. And I think the Clintons represent the saner wing of that party, whereas I think Barack Obama does a good job at masquerading, or at least masquerading to the general public. But I think that
that's a great word.
Yeah, I think he's far left to where.
I think he's a firm believer in income redistribution. I think he goes to the left of a socialist. He makes a communist look conservative, and most of my Democratic friends are not overwhelmed with the performance they've seen out of the White House, and the issues both around the world and inside the country, become real problematic. The pipeline that never got built, what was it? The ATF scandal on the border, the immigration problems we're seeing,
the IRS,
Benghazi.
I mean, it's just just
one thing after
the
another.
other.
Fast and furious.
The press seems unwilling to really delve into them in the depth that one would hope they would, because it's their party. And but the public knows. I mean, over time they see what's going on, and there's a lot of scary, pressure points around the world these days. So a lot of it, a lot of people lay at the feet of the United States for whatever reason, not necessarily addressing some of the issues in a more, I don't want to say forceful manner, but probably more an intelligent approach. I think we seem to just ad hoc everything, it seems, and that has not boded well for a lot of issues. But
So what do you think's going to happen if you had to predict? What do you think's going to
With
happen?
regard to
Hillary?
elections, you're
Is
talking
Hillary
about?
going to be
Or
our next
Hillary?
president? Is Hillary going to be next
I
president?
don't know. I think the other issue that bothers me is
Could be.
this whole story about her health, her mental health, that she got hurt when she fell, and there's a lot of specific information with regard to what happened to her when she was hospitalized, when she took that fall. I am hoping to hear something more about it. I'm sure that there's a good percentage of the population that will simply buy Hillary, period. They don't care about anything, and it's going to be Hillary no matter what. But I do feel as though a lot more people are beginning to learn, and I think this comes down to the same thing that Mike was talking about, and that is that there's a definite need for a balanced system. We definitely need another strong party. Whether we have the leadership at the Republican Party at this time that is strong enough to do it, I don't know. I hear every day a lot of disparaging news with regard to the leadership and look at what happened to what's his name, Cantor.
Eric Cantor in Virginia.
Yeah, he
That
got
surprised me.
wiped out. That was really a surprise.
I think that
Then
surprised
again,
a lot of people.
That really
Huh?
surprised me.
Yeah.
yeah,
He's a
I mean,
very-
so if it happened to him, it can happen to anyone.
Here's my prediction.
Go ahead.
I think Hillary wants to run. I
But-
think Bill wants Hillary to run even more than Hillary wants to run.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Hillary's going to run in the end. And I'll tell you why. Hillary's not going to run to lose. Hillary's not going to run if the odds are 50-50. And I think the way that everything is going right now, I think Hillary's not going to run to lose.
Yeah.
I think with Hillary being challenged from her left flank, I think, in a head-to-head matchup versus a Republican, even though we don't know who the Republican would be at this point, so Hillary would come off at the behemoth at this point. But once the Republicans settle on a nominee in a head-to-head matchup, I think it's anyone's race. But I think in the meantime, Hillary is going to get challenged from her left flank. She doesn't want to see that again. She doesn't want to, she's going to have a tough time trying to figure out how to walk that line between I served in the Obama administration,
Yes.
but I need to run against Obama
Yes.
now.
Yeah. And yet I was part of Obama's administration.
I'll tell you what the biggest problem is going to be. We've been in a miserable recovery for 5 years, 6 years. By the time the election starts to roll around again, it would not shock me at all if we start to sink back into recession. And coming out of an administration, political party that's been basically had control of the purse strings for the last 8 years, when you're going into that scenario, the incumbent party pays a tremendous price. Certainly was the case when Bush finished up and the economy certainly tanked at the end. Those things go in cycles, and at least Bush had a decent recovery. This one has been more than anemic, and a lot of people are forecasting that we're probably going to slide again. So I think the pressure on any Democratic candidate to continue with the policies that exist, and that's what people would expect, is going to be extremely difficult. That'd be my view. So I think any Democratic candidate would really be challenged, and that would be smart politics on her part. How old is she now?
I believe she's
67, 68,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
So the window's shrinking to some degree.
Yeah.
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 And let's not forget that, Hillary is a real person, too, and Hillary's about to become a grandmother. And,
Yeah.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
She spent the Clintons love being in the spotlight, and the Clintons love being. I believe I don't know them personally, but I believe they love being in the center of power. But eventually, they've been there for the last 30 years. I mean, there's got to be at some point Hillary's going to want to take her foot off the gas a little bit. And the book, actually, this was a great read. Anyone that's interested in politics.
Klein, you said, yeah.
Ed Klein is the name.
Does he talk about,
It's a fast read.
about Bill Clinton telling Hillary that in the event of his death?
Yes.
Did that come out of that book?
Yes, the book.
In the event of his death, that she should take full advantage of it.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I thought
use
that
as a
was
point of legacy.
Yeah.
Because
In other words, we're going to plan everything so that and he actually talks about the funeral and how many people should attend and who should be invited, all with the intent of helping Hillary, assuming that she's running for president. Yeah,
Bill Clinton comes off in this book. I thought he came off as a likable character in the book.
Well,
He's a character.
I think he is. Guys, we only have a couple of minutes left, and we want to address one other subject as well. So we want to talk a little bit about our
Yes.
our
Yep.
fundraiser that we're having on Saturday.
Yep.
For Burlington and beyond, we're going to have a food stand
At Burlington Day.
at
Yeah,
Burlington Day.
and
Burlington Celebrate,
Yeah, we're going
or
to
Celebrate
have,
Burlington, I should
Yeah.
say.
And we would be thrilled to have any of you come. We're going to have a full slate of great food, burgers, hot dogs, Italian ice by Spadafora, sausages, the best in the world, Bianco sausages out of Revere. Everything is going to be cooked to order. We'd love to see you there. I looked at the weather
I hope they're still
today.
cranking out those sausages, by the way, after the tornado in Revere. I just want to, let's...
I checked it out. I checked it out.
Point.
You've been talking about these sausages for a while, so
Yeah,
look forward to those.
What was it? A hurricane? No, it wasn't. A tornado.
Tornado.
The other. It was on another part of Revere. But anyway,
Come find us from 10 to 4
10 to 4
this Saturday.
At least 10 to 4. Yeah. And we might even be there a little bit beyond if we get permission to.
Thank you for joining
hang
us
on.
this evening. Come find us on Saturday. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another great show for you, provided Obama doesn't try and drone us first. Have a great night. Thank you.